They thought they had you cornered. Watching from the dark, they smiled when you fell. They waited for the silence after your collapse, hoping that would be the end of your story. They didn't just want you quiet, they wanted you erased. They believed their lies could crush you, that their games would twist your path, that the weight of their schemes would leave you begging. But they miscalculated badly. See, chosen ones aren't destroyed in chaos. We evolve through it. While they clapped at your downfall, you were gathering strength, quietly, calmly. Every time they tried to bury you, they just pushed you deeper into your own power. They didn't know their cruelty was shaping something dangerous, someone who would rise without warning and shake the ground beneath them. The pain they sent your way, you didn't just survive it, you used it. You crafted silence into strategy. You took their hate and turned it into momentum. Now they feel it, the shift, the pressure. Your presence makes them nervous, your glow makes them restless. That's the weight of being chosen. It doesn't ask for respect, it demands it. You don't walk back in hoping they've changed. You walk in changed, and that alone is enough to haunt everything they tried to build against you. They wanted you broken. Now they're the ones breaking. So if this message hits something real inside you, don't just watch and walk away. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, stay connected, because chosen ones don't just rise, we rise together. Before moving ahead, thank you to each of you who've supported this mission through Super Thanks. Your kindness is a quiet sign of alignment and strength. You're not just watching, you're standing in purpose, helping this truth reach those still finding their voice. If this message resonates in your spirit, comment 999 below as a silent yet powerful declaration that you're walking in alignment and nothing sent to break you will win. Number 1. Never mistake despair for defeat. It's the fire that forges those meant to rise above it all. They misread the silence. They saw your exhaustion, your cracked smile, the quiet way you kept moving through what looked like ruin. And they thought they'd won. They thought they had pushed you far enough down that you'd never get back up. What they didn't know is that some people don't rise in applause. They rise in shadows. They rise when no one's looking, when the weight feels unbearable, and when even the mirror doesn't recognize them anymore. That's where real power grows. In the places they avoid, in the pain they mock, in the depths they don't dare visit. They saw despair as your weakness, but for you, it was the beginning. It was where you learned that survival isn't always loud. Sometimes it's breathing when your chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes it's showing up when every part of you wants to vanish. They thought they were watching you collapse, but you were constructing a new version of yourself from the rubble they left behind. Stronger, colder, smarter, and most of all, untouchable. They don't understand how anyone can come back from that kind of darkness without help, without noise, without begging. But that's the difference. You didn't beg, you didn't ask, you didn't wait for rescue. You turned your rock bottom into a workshop. You built yourself again with trembling hands and a clear mind. You took what they used to hurt you and turned it into armor. That's not healing. They can't understand that kind of transformation because it doesn't fit their rules. It doesn't play into their systems of control. They needed you to stay broken because broken people don't cause problems. They comply. They apologize for taking up space. But you You weren't built to be manageable. You didn't just rise. You shifted into something they can't recognize, something they can't silence. You walked through despair, and it didn't destroy you. It defined you. And now, they're the ones who look lost. Now they sit in quiet rooms, wondering how the person they tried to erase became the one they can't stop watching. You're not just a survivor. You're the outcome they never prepared for. You were supposed to beg, but you built. You were supposed to fall, but you focused. You were supposed to break, but instead, you became the reason they don't sleep peacefully anymore. That's what it means to be chosen. You don't wait for light, you create it. You don't fear the fire, you become it. Number 2. Don't fear being buried. Real power grows where others thought you'd rot. They were so sure they had buried you for good. They piled on the dirt, rumors, betrayal, silence. They thought that by covering your name in lies and surrounding your dreams with failure, they could end you. But they forgot who you are. Chosen ones don't die in the dark. We grow in it. We don't fade under pressure. We bloom through it. While they were too busy celebrating your silence, you were building. Every insult became a brick. Every dismissal, a seed. They mistook your stillness for surrender, not realizing you were laying roots in the very place they tried to bury you. That's what they'll never understand. You weren't hiding. You were preparing. They built shallow traps. You built a deeper foundation. They only saw the surface, so they missed everything happening underneath. The focus, the planning, the transformation. You studied your pain. You learned from every back turned, every door slammed, and you used it all to grow into someone they never saw coming. They needed you small, broken, easy to ignore. But that's not what you were made for. You don't fit into their limits. You weren't made to wilt. You were made to root deep and rise higher. They thought they had written your ending, but you were just beginning. And now, you're not where they left you. You're not broken. You're not lost. You've outgrown every lie they used to define you. You didn't need revenge. Your existence is louder than anything they ever said. You didn't just survive. You built a garden in the place they thought would destroy you. And the worst part for them, you did it without needing a single thing from them. While they were digging your grave, you were quietly growing into their greatest regret. Number 3. Stop swallowing their poison. Learn to turn every insult into your own fuel. They tried to serve you shame like it was your final meal. Every smirk, every fake compliment, every time they looked you up and down like you didn't belong, it was a strategy. They wanted to poison your self-worth slowly. Their goal wasn't just to hurt you. It was to make you doubt yourself so deeply that you'd start asking for their approval just to breathe right. They thought humiliation would hollow you out, that you'd shrink, chase their acceptance, and break under their silent judgment. But chosen ones don't break like that. We adapt differently. What they fed you was meant to crush you, but you didn't swallow it whole. You broke it down, rebuilt it, and turned it into fuel. You didn't just take the hate. They gave you a blueprint, a lesson, a warning sign of who not to become. You learned how to walk in rooms where no one clapped and still stand tall. You stopped looking for their validation because you realized weak minds need someone beneath them. But you didn't need to step on anyone to rise. You didn't need their small version of success built on followers and fake praise. You just needed your fire. They kept throwing dirt, hoping to bury you in silence. But every grain only sharpened your edge. They wanted you broken, but instead, you became untouchable. Their poison didn't kill you. It became your armor. Their judgment didn't define you, it revealed them. Now they're choking, not because you failed, but because you didn't. You became everything they swore you couldn't. And the worst part for them? You did it without ever becoming like them. You rose with power, not noise, with grace, not games. That's why they can't copy it, and that's why they'll never stop watching. Number 4. Don't chase mercy from mockers. Watch how the ones who laughed start begging when you rise. The same ones who once laughed at your pain are now whispering apologies they swore you'd never deserve. Back then, they found joy in your struggle. They didn't just watch you fall, they celebrated it. They smirked when you stumbled, made jokes out of your tears, and turned your breaking points into gossip. To them, your pain was entertainment, something to feed their empty egos. It made them feel powerful to stand over someone already in pieces. But what they didn't know is that pain doesn't disappear. It waits. It teaches. It remembers. You didn't forget, but you didn't hold on to it out of hate. You held it as a map of who stood by you and who stood over you. You watched it all unfold. Quietly, carefully, you rebuilt yourself with more patience than they'll ever understand. Stronger, slower, sharper. And now the ones who mocked your tears are drowning in their own. Now life has flipped. Now they're the ones gasping for help, looking toward the same person they once tried to destroy. But you're not that person anymore. You don't move from emotion, you move with intention. You don't rescue those who dug your grave. Because some people need to feel what it's like when no one comes running. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. Chosen ones don't beg, and we don't save those who watched us bleed. Mercy? That's not automatic, that's earned. And when you finally understood that, you took your power back, not through revenge, but through indifference. You didn't scream, you didn't retaliate, you simply moved on. Now they're stuck where they left you, and you're light years ahead. That's what happens when the hunted becomes the storm, and the quiet one becomes the one they'll never outrun. Number 5. Survival is step 1. Study your pain until it becomes armor they can't pierce. You weren't built to just make it out. You were built to rise from it, sharpened. While others were satisfied with simply surviving, you wanted more. You wanted clarity. You wanted power. You wanted to understand your wounds so deeply that no one could ever use them against you again. Survival was never your finish line. It was just the entry point to something far more dangerous. You didn't just feel pain. You studied it. You sat in the silence where it screamed loudest. You traced every crack, every scar, every blow they thought would break you. While they assumed you were shattered, you were in the lab of your own soul, learning how pain moves, how fear works, how patterns repeat. You didn't avoid the darkness. You mapped it. You made it your ground. And once you knew it, fully, painfully, you made sure no one could ever throw you back there again. You didn't fight to destroy them. You fought to build something no one could shake. Now you move with calm. You speak with silence. You don't explain. You don't chase. You don't flinch. Your energy does what their loudest words never could. It cuts through illusion. They look at you now and see something they can't name, can't reach, can't shake. You were supposed to be easy to manipulate, easy to provoke. They thought you'd always need saving. But you studied your own destruction so closely that now you've become something no enemy can predict. While they play checkers, you've mastered chess in silence. And now, they're left shouting into the void, desperate for a reaction that never comes. Because the person they tried to break didn't just heal, you evolved into something cold, clear, and completely out of reach. That's the real revenge. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, take a quiet moment to like and subscribe. Not as a reaction, but as a simple affirmation that you're walking this path with purpose and you're ready for more. Number 6. Don't speak too soon. Your silence sharpens weapons louder than their noise ever could. They saw you standing still and thought it meant you were frozen, powerless, broken. But chosen ones don't move on impulse. We move with precision. While they were out there throwing dirt on your name, putting on performances, and mistaking noise for power, you were sharpening. Quietly, deeply, ruthlessly. They thought you were weak because you didn't shout, didn't swing, didn't fight back the way they understood. But that's the game they play. Loud moves with empty meaning. You were never playing their game. You were studying, watching, learning everything they thought you'd miss. You didn't flinch because every second of silence was a calculation. Every insult noted, every betrayal stored. You turned their attacks into tools, into clarity, into fuel. What they never understood is that real danger doesn't announce itself. It waits, it prepares, and then it moves in silence. That's what scares them now. Your quiet became your strategy. Your stillness became your power. While they underestimated you, you became something they couldn't predict and can't contain. You let them believe they had you. You gave them false comfort while you built something lethal behind the scenes. And when the time came, you didn't need words. You didn't need approval. You made moves that couldn't be undone. And now they're scrambling. By the time they realized the silence wasn't surrender, but a warning, you were already out of reach. That's the strength of the chosen one. Unshaken, unseen, unstoppable. Number 7. Quit craving their acceptance. Their betrayal is the blueprint that wakes up your true power. You thought their approval mattered until their betrayal opened your eyes. For a long time, you bent yourself just to be accepted. You watered down your power, softened your fire, and broke yourself into pieces so they'd feel comfortable. You thought if you were good enough, quiet enough, strong enough, maybe, just maybe, they'd finally treat you right. But it was never about your worth. It was about their fear of it. They couldn't handle your light, so they tried to dim it. They couldn't match your depth, so they made you feel like you were too much. And you believed them. You carried their silence like it was your fault. You chased after their love like it was something you had to earn. But the truth came, cold, sharp, and necessary. Their betrayal wasn't your downfall, it was your freedom. See, chosen ones don't awaken through comfort, they awaken through fire. You didn't lose real people, you lost illusions. You lost the mask they wore, the one that made you think they were safe. And once it shattered, so did your need for validation. Their loyalty wasn't real. Their care had conditions. But that betrayal, that was real. And it reminded you exactly who you are. You were never meant to shrink, never meant to beg, never meant to carry people who could barely carry themselves. You outgrew the room the moment you stopped apologizing for existing. Their betrayal didn't break you. It revealed you. You were always meant to walk alone for a while, so you'd remember how powerful your own footsteps sound. They didn't take anything from you. You let go of what was never meant for you. And when you finally walked away, you never looked back. Because chosen ones don't return to cages they've already broken free from. Number 8. Refuse their cages. Your broken pieces build wings when you stop trying to fit in. They tried to trap you without chains. Quietly, strategically, they built invisible cages around your mind, not your body. Whispers of doubt, sneaky suggestions of who you should be, silent expectations to stay small, quiet, easy to handle. They didn't care if you grew, only if they could control how far. They didn't want a stronger you. They wanted a tamed one, predictable, caged, forgettable. But while they were busy tightening the lock, you were busy becoming something uncontainable. You didn't crumble. You didn't conform. You started using every scar, every failure, every broken piece as material. They thought your pain was waste, something to be ashamed of. But you knew better. You gathered the sharpest fragments of your story and built wings. You stitched flight into every part of yourself they tried to bury. You didn't just slip out of the trap, you outgrew it. Their cage wasn't too weak. You became too strong, too wide, too wise to ever fit into anything built by fear. And now they're standing outside the storm, watching you rise in ways they said were impossible, watching you fly through winds that were supposed to break you, watching their lies collapse under your movement. They thought the storm would silence you. Instead, it became your language. You became the very force they feared, unpredictable, unbothered, untouchable. You didn't escape their grip. You made it irrelevant. And the truth they can't accept. You were never made to be manageable. You were made to be free. You were the storm they didn't see coming. And now there's no cage in this world big enough to hold you. Number 9. Never apologize for existing. Let their discomfort be the echo of your transformation. They didn't just want silence from you. They wanted an apology for who you are. They couldn't handle your presence, so they tried to shrink it. Too loud, too quiet, too bold, too soft. No matter what you did, it was always too much for people who couldn't stand the reflection you showed them. They needed you to question yourself, so they never had to face their own emptiness. And for a moment, you almost gave in. You almost made your existence smaller just to make them comfortable. They wanted you to say sorry for taking up space, for dreaming big, for loving deeply, for standing firm. But that's because they sensed something in you they couldn't control, and deep down, it scared them. Because when a chosen one forgets their worth, the world gets quieter. But when a chosen one remembers it, the world changes. You didn't announce your evolution. You just stopped waiting for permission. You stopped giving explanations. You stopped folding yourself into pieces that made others feel taller. And that right there, that silent, focused growth, they never saw it coming. Now you don't need to block them. You've simply risen so far, they can't reach anymore. Your energy, your time, your peace, it comes with a cost, and most can't afford it. They're knocking now, begging for access to a life they once tried to laugh out of existence. But you don't owe them closure. You don't owe them softness. You already paid in silence, in tears, in resilience. And that debt? It's been cleared. You are no longer explaining yourself. You are no longer apologizing for who you are. You're standing in the power they tried to bury. And now they can't even afford to look you in the eye. Number 10. Don't flip the script, burn their whole damn system, and write your own rules. They thought you were playing their game. They thought if they rigged the system just right, you'd spend your whole life trying to earn a seat at their crooked table. They counted on your silence, on your need to be accepted. They thought you'd wait politely for permission. But what they didn't know is that chosen ones don't wait in line. We build the house they never saw coming, and then we tear theirs down with the same bricks they threw at us. At first, you tried. You played fair. You followed their rules even when it meant shrinking yourself. You worked harder, stayed quieter, hoping the effort would matter, hoping they'd finally let you in. But no matter how much you gave, it was never enough, because they never intended to let you rise. That's when something inside you snapped. The realization hit. You weren't losing the game. You were never supposed to win it. And just like that, you stopped playing. You didn't flip the table. You dismantled the whole house. You burned their ladder, rewrote your blueprint, and built a path they'll never be able to walk. Now, you're not chasing their version of success. You've created your own. One where peace is power, where silence is strategy, where presence speaks louder than performance. And now, they're stuck, watching from a distance, trying to decode a life they can't access. You outgrew their lies, outpaced their tactics, and outclassed the very system they thought would break you. They can't reach you because you no longer exist in their world. You're writing new rules now, and they don't even get a mention. That's what happens when a chosen one stops waiting and starts creating. Number 11. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's the release that sets you free from carrying their poison. At some point, you finally saw it clearly. Holding on to what they did was only keeping you locked in a prison they built. Forgiveness? It wasn't some kind gesture. It wasn't about making peace with people who never had peace in their hearts to begin with. It was about one thing only: freedom. Yours. You used to think letting go meant they'd won, that forgiveness meant you were weak or letting them off the hook. But the truth, carrying their mess, their damage, their guilt, it was poisoning you, not them. You were dragging around their weight like it belonged to you, but it didn't. It never did. And you realized that if you wanted to breathe again, really breathe, you'd have to drop it all. You didn't forgive them because they deserved it. You did it because you deserved peace, because your future was too big to carry the wreckage of their actions into it. Forgiveness wasn't kindness. It was a clean break from everything that tried to chain you to pain. And once you let go, everything shifted. You weren't walking wounded anymore. You were walking light, unbothered, unreachable. And now they're still stuck, choking on the weight of what they did, while you've already moved far beyond their reach. That's the power of chosen ones. We don't forget what was done, but we refuse to let it own us. You didn't just forgive them, you freed yourself. Number 12. Don't match their cruelty. Precision hits harder than petty ever could. They thought they were teaching you how to hurt, but all they really did was expose who they were. Every lie, every insult, every twisted game they played wasn't just cruelty. It was a desperate attempt to drag you down to their level. They wanted you to react, to explode, to lose yourself in the mess they created, because that's how they operate. Chaos is their comfort zone. But chosen ones don't fight with noise. We fight with silence and precision. You felt the sting, yes, but you didn't let it define you. Instead of clapping back with the same venom, You stood still and watched them reveal everything about themselves. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You mastered the art of calm. You understood early that power isn't found in throwing punches. It's found in knowing when not to. And that alone made you dangerous in ways they still can't understand. You didn't match their hate. You outgrew it. You didn't copy their moves. You crafted your own. You didn't throw stones. You built silence so sharp it cut deeper than any insult ever could. You used their poison to grow, not to shrink. You took their bitterness and turned it into strategy. Precision became your armor. Grace became your weapon, and they never saw it coming. Now you walk with a peace they can't touch, a power they can't manipulate, a presence they can't poison. You didn't win by becoming cruel. You won by staying in control. You became untouchable, not because you were louder, but because you were smarter, calmer, colder. You didn't break their way. You learned how to break the cycle. That's what terrifies them. They taught you war, but you mastered the art of winning without ever raising your voice. Number 13. Stop proving yourself. Walk away and watch how their confidence collapses in your absence. The shift didn't happen with noise. It happened the moment you decided you were done performing. For years, they dangled validation like a prize, convincing you that you had to earn your worth. You tried to prove yourself, to be enough, to be seen. You bent, you worked harder. You tried to be palatable just to stay in rooms that were never built for you in the first place. They watched as you chased approval. They liked it that way. As long as you kept trying to measure up to their shallow standards, they felt in control. It fed their illusion of power. But something inside you changed. Quietly, sharply. You realized the fight wasn't worth it. Their approval wasn't power. It was a leash. And the moment you dropped it, everything around them shook. You didn't shout. You didn't explain. You just stopped needing them. You walked away with a calm they weren't prepared for. No arguments, no goodbye. And that silence hit harder than any loud exit ever could. Because now, it's them scrambling to feel important. It's them questioning their worth because the one they tried to break no longer needs to be seen by them. You flipped the entire game by choosing not to play. You didn't win by beating them at their own rules. You won by showing those rules were never meant for someone like you. And now, every time they think of you, it stings. Not because you fought back, but because you didn't have to. Because walking away with your dignity intact was the loudest victory they never saw coming. That's the moment they started to fall, when you stopped needing what they never had the power to give. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, take a quiet moment to like and subscribe, not as a reaction, but as a simple affirmation that you're walking this path with purpose and you're ready for more. Number 14. Don't wait to be rescued. Become your own reckoning and rewrite the ending they feared. They saw you hurting and thought that made you helpless. They assumed that because you were quiet, you were weak. That because you were bruised, you were broken. They looked at your pain and thought it defined you. They believed they could shape you, mold you, fix you, as if you were lost, waiting to be rescued. But what they didn't see was that you were never lost. You were rebuilding. You weren't stuck. You were sharpening. They thought you needed saving, but you were never anyone's project. You were the storm-gathering force behind closed doors, the silence before a powerful shift. You didn't rise because someone reached down. You rose because you stopped waiting. You rose because you realized everything you needed was already inside you, waiting to be unlocked. You didn't come back to fit in. You came back to take over. And not just to show them you survived, but to prove you were never meant to be caged by their doubt in the first place. They couldn't see the version of you that was being born in the fire they tried to burn you with. They thought your pain was the end of you, but it was your beginning. You didn't become great because someone believed in you. You became great because you finally believed in yourself. Because you stopped shrinking, stopped apologizing, stopped carrying dead weight in rooms built too small for you. Now, you move differently. You walk with power they don't understand and never will. You don't ask for space. You take it. You don't wait for permission. You write your own terms. And while they're busy chasing shadows of who they thought you were, you're walking fully in who you've always been meant to become, unshaken, unstoppable, and completely out of reach. And as we reach the end of this message, let this be your reminder. What they tried to break only built you. You didn't fold under pressure. You formed into something they'll never be able to touch. The power you carry now isn't loud, but it's undeniable. You no longer need to explain, chase, or prove. You've already won by becoming who they never expected. If this truth settled into your spirit, don't let it fade. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay close to the messages that speak to your strength. This is only the beginning.